Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into Rick Schnabel's Roar, Courage, From Fear to Fearless.
Yeah, this book really resonated with me. So many good points in here.
It's definitely a thought-provoking one. It's a real roadmap for, conquering fear and really achieving those, big goals.
Yeah, he doesn't just talk about courage. He actually gives you practical steps you can take. It uses psychology and personal stories and even examples of really successful people.
Exactly. And we're not going to just summarize it. We're going to really try to uncover his unique perspective on courage and how it relates back to things like, addiction.
Right. It's all about applying these insights.
Exactly. Practical application.
To your own life, yeah. So you can actually, make a difference.
Okay, so let's start with Schnabel's breakdown of fear itself.
Yeah.
Where does he say this all comes from?
He says, well, he really focuses on the idea that a lot of our fear is actually learned in childhood. And it stems from this primal fight or flight response. It's hardwired into us.
Right.
He actually uses this example from his own life about being terrified to ride his bike, on the road.
I read about that.
Because his parents, they had all this anxiety about it.
I see.
And it really stuck with him.
So think about it this way. If you had a really scary experience, right, as a kid,
Yeah.
it actually created a neural network in your brain.
Yeah.
So every time you encounter, a similar situation,
Yes.
that whole network gets reactivated.
It's like a flashback almost.
And that fear response, it just kicks right back in.
And you don't even realize it's happening half the time.
So basically, we could be carrying around all this baggage from childhood that's holding us back without even realizing it.
That's exactly it. And it can affect everything, your relationships, your career.
Wow.
And to make things even more complicated, he talks about this concept of the empathy gap.
Oh, yeah. What is that again?
So, we underestimate how much fear we'll actually feel in a future situation.
So we kind of avoid it altogether. So you might think, oh, I'll be fine giving that presentation. But then, the moment you get up on stage, you totally freeze up.
That makes sense.
That's the empathy gap in action.
Wow. Okay, so how do we actually break free, from these fear patterns and this empathy gap? Is that where Roar Courage comes in?
Yes. It's about taking control. Instead of being controlled by fear, Schnabel says we need to choose courage, actively. It's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about making decision to act in spite of it.
Okay.
To move toward your goals even when you're scared.
I like that. It's roaring in the face of that fear.
Exactly.
Instead of letting it, just paralyze you.
That's a great way to put it. He talks about 4 different types of courage.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Social, creative, intellectual, and moral.
Yeah, it's not just one thing.
So what do those look like in real life? Right. He gives some great examples in the book. There's this one story about a client who was just terrified of public speaking.
Yeah.
And, through coaching and stuff, she was actually able to change her beliefs about herself. And she became a successful speaker.
Really? That's amazing.
It is. It's incredible what we can do if we believe in ourselves. And, it reminds me of something you were asking about earlier, this connection between, addiction and success.
Oh, right. It sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, it definitely caught my eye.
But it really piqued my interest.
Right. He's not saying that harmful addictions are good. He's saying that the drive that comes with addiction, that focus, if you channel it in a good way, it can be really powerful.
Oh, so you're saying someone who might be, prone to certain types of addictive behavior,
right?
They could actually use that to their advantage.
Exactly. He calls it the power of 8. You think about Bill Gates or Jimi Hendrix. They were so dedicated, almost to the point of obsession, but it led to incredible things. And he argues that we all have that potential, if we can harness it.
So 8 hours, he's saying, to be truly great at something, you got to be a little bit obsessed.
In a way, yeah. He ties this concept back to the 10,000-hour rule, that idea that mastery takes time.
Yeah.
And it's not just time, it's effort.
Right. Consistent effort.
Exactly. And he's careful to, distinguish between productive and destructive addictions.
I see. So Bill Gates spending all those hours coding in his youth.
Right. Or Jimi Hendrix practicing guitar relentlessly. They weren't just talented. They were addicted to their crafts,
Yeah.
but in a good way.
Okay, so how do we know if our passions are, actually leading to good things? How do we tell the difference?
Well, he has a whole section where he breaks down the characteristics of an addictive personality.
Both good and bad.
Both, yeah. And he even suggests that a lot of successful people, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, might have had what he calls like addicted personalities. It's about understanding those tendencies.
So it's like, okay, if we can, like, recognize these potentially addictive traits in ourselves,
right?
How do we use that to our advantage?
Well, he offers some really practical strategies.
I'm excited to dig into that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. In the last part, we were talking about the whole power of 8 thing.
Right.
It got me thinking like, wow, 8 hours.
It's a lot of time.
It is a lot of time. How do we
make that happen?
Yeah, how do we even approach that?
Yeah, it can be kind of overwhelming, right?
Yeah, especially
if you're used to just have a more passive approach to your passions.
Right.
But thankfully, he gives us some tools.
He does.
To make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Like that wheel of life exercise.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites from the book.
It
was simple.
It's simple, but it's so effective.
But powerful.
Yeah, to just assess different areas.
Of your life. Yeah.
Of your life career.
Yeah. Career, relationships. Health, exactly.
And see, like, okay.
Where's the fear?
Where's that fear holding me back?
Yeah. And then,
And then that's where you focus your
courage.
Courage.
Yeah.
And start applying that power of 8.
Exactly.
But even when we know,
right,
like, where to focus.
Yeah.
How do we get the courage to take those first steps?
Right. That's the question.
That's the big question.
He offers this really neat technique called the roar courage technique.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's all about, like, remembering
a time when you felt really courageous.
Yeah. You actually remember everything about that experience.
The sights, the sounds. Everything.
And then you use that
to trigger
that same state.
When you're facing a new challenge.
Yeah. It's like you have this mental shortcut.
You do. It's a shortcut to courage.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like a courage button.
A courage button in your brain.
In your brain, exactly. That you can just press.
Whenever you need it.
I
love it.
Yeah. So, for example.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you have to give a big presentation, right? And you're terrified.
Most people are terrified of public speaking.
Instead of letting the fear take over, you close your eyes.
Okay.
And you think back to a time when you felt super courageous.
Like when you finally stood up to that bully.
Yeah, exactly. Or like when you aced that really hard exam.
Or when you
overcame a fear, like speaking up in a meeting.
Yeah.
And remember how you felt in that moment.
Strong, confident, capable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bring back all those details.
What you saw, what you heard.
Even what you smelled.
Oh, yeah.
By reliving that memory.
Right.
You're actually triggering those neural pathways.
You're tapping back into that.
And you're tapping back into that same energy.
That's so powerful.
It is.
It's like rewiring your brain for courage.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, but speaking of things that can hold us back.
Yes.
From courage.
Yeah.
He also talks about societal fear, right?
Yes, he does.
Like our culture.
Like the culture we live in can make us more fearful.
Exactly.
And he has some interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, he argues that like all of this exposure.
The violence and drama in the media can actually contribute to this culture of fear.
It's like we're being bombarded with negativity.
We are.
All the time.
Yeah, and it makes it harder to feel safe.
It makes you feel unsafe. It does. Yes. And insecure.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes you just expect the worst.
It does.
No wonder so many people struggle with anxiety these days.
Right.
So what can we do about it?
Well, he has a few suggestions.
Okay.
He says, be mindful of the media you consume.
Oh, okay.
So be selective about what you let into your mind.
Like watch less TV.
Yeah, limit your exposure to news.
Social media,
which can be really negative and fear-inducing.
It's like you're taking control of your information diet.
And making sure you're not overdosing on all that negativity.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
But what about like the language we use?
Oh, that's another good point.
Because I remember he was talking about how
there's a connection
between the words we use.
And our level of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, he specifically talks about how we overuse
war language
in corporate settings.
Yeah, in business.
And just in society in general.
It's like battle for market share.
Yeah. Or fighting for survival.
Yeah.
And he argues that this kind of language actually creates more aggression.
More conflict.
And it makes the world
a more fearful place.
Less cooperative.
Yeah. It's like we're constantly framing our lives as this battle.
Right.
Which just creates so much
Anxiety, it's very intense.
Anxiety. So what's the alternative?
He says we need to use kinder
More peaceful.
or peaceful language.
Instead of fighting competitors, we can talk about collaborating with partners. Instead of battling challenges, we can talk about overcoming obstacles.
It's a small shift.
Right.
But it can make a big difference.
Yeah, because the words we use,
They really do.
they impact our thoughts and feelings.
They do.
And our actions.
Absolutely.
So if we can choose,
More positive language,
yeah,
we can start to rewire our brains.
for courage.
For courage, yeah.
I love that.
And this connects back to his idea of a values-based education system.
Oh, yeah. What does he say about that?
He believes that children should be taught to, discover their passions.
Instead of just conforming
Instead of conforming, yeah.
to expectations.
To societal expectations.
It's about nurturing that inner spark,
It is.
that sense of purpose.
That makes us want to make a difference.
Yeah, overcome challenges.
Contribute to the world.
I think that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful message.
And it all comes back to his core message.
Which is it.
Courage is not something we're just born with.
We have to cultivate it.
We have to work for it.
We do. It's a conscious choice.
And it takes practice.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different things here.
We have
The wheel of life.
the roar courage technique,
Being mindful of our language, our media.
our information diet.
What other steps
What are there?
can we take to put these ideas into practice? So many practical tips and tools
Yeah, a lot.
to build more courage.
Yeah.
Are there any others besides the ones we've already mentioned?
Yeah, he really emphasizes the importance of mentorship.
Oh, yeah. Having a mentor.
Yeah, someone to guide you.
Someone who believes in you.
Right. Someone who's been there.
To support you on your journey.
Especially when you doubt yourself.
Yeah. I can see how that could be so valuable.
It really is.
When you're trying to do something brave and you just have those moments.
You're going to have those moments.
The self-doubt.
Yeah, a mentor can help you see your potential.
Even when you can't see it yourself.
Right. They can give you guidance and encouragement.
Yeah, when you hit those roadblocks.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not just a mentor. It's about surrounding yourself with a supportive community.
Oh, yeah, your tribe.
Your tribe, people who share your values.
Who get it.
Who are also committed to growth.
It's like your own little courage cheer squad.
I like that.
Okay, but even with all that support,
Yeah.
it's still so easy to get discouraged.
It is.
When things get tough,
Yeah, you're going to face setbacks.
you're going to fail sometimes.
And that's okay.
Right.
He actually encourages us to see failure as a stepping stone to success.
Ooh, I like that.
He says every mistake, every setback is an opportunity
To learn.
learn and grow.
Yeah, instead of seeing it as a weakness,
Right.
it's a sign that you're pushing yourself.
Exactly. You're pushing your limits,
You're growing.
which is how you get better.
Yeah, so powerful.
It is.
So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about reframing it,
Changing your perspective.
seeing it as part of the journey.
Exactly.
And he also talks about celebrating those successes,
He does.
no matter how small they are.
Right. Every time you overcome a fear,
Every time you step outside your comfort zone,
celebrate it.
it's a victory.
It is.
It's a win.
And those small wins, they add up.
They build momentum.
They do.
And it reinforces that positive connection with courage
With courage. Yeah, it's like training your brain.
to be more courageous.
Exactly.
Which ties back to the whole addiction idea,
Yeah.
right?
It does.
Like channeling that addictive tendency
Towards something positive.
towards those positive outcomes.
Right. When you celebrate your successes, you're giving yourself a reward.
It's like a little dopamine hit for being courageous.
Exactly. And that keeps you motivated.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a powerful cycle.
Okay, so with all these areas of our lives,
Right.
how do we know where to focus?
That's where the wheel of life comes in.
Oh, right.
You can assess those different areas.
Career relationships, personal growth,
Health, finances,
everything.
the whole picture.
And see what feels stagnant.
Or unfulfilling.
Where are you holding yourself back?
Yeah. What dreams have you been putting off?
What are you afraid to do?
What changes do you need to make?
And then that's where you bring the roar.
Exactly.
You unleash your full potential.
I love it.
Yeah, it's all about empowerment.
We all have that potential.
We do.
For greatness.
And courage is the key.
Wow. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has been.
What are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the most important thing is to remember that courage isn't about not feeling fear.
It's about feeling the fear.
And doing it anyway.
It's about recognizing that fear is normal.
It's part of being human.
But we don't have to let it control us.
We have the power to choose courage.
And courage is like a muscle.
It is.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
We can all develop it.
Yes, we can.
With practice.
And with conscious choice.
Exactly.
It's so inspiring.
It is.
We can all cultivate more roar courage in our lives.
One step at a time.
And not only transform our own lives,
but make the world a better place. A more courageous and compassionate world.
He ends the book with a really great line.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "You can create your vision and live your dreams. I believe in you."
That's perfect.
It is.
So on that note,
Yeah.
what final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
Think about one area of your life
where you need more courage.
Yeah. What have you been putting off?
What's that dream you're hesitant to pursue?
What are you afraid to say?
And what's one small step
you can take today
to move towards that goal?
It doesn't have to be huge.
Just one small
You're
step.
making a phone call,
Signing up for a class.
having a tough conversation,
Just take that first step.
and see where it leads.
Courage is not about grand gestures.
It's about those everyday choices.
To step outside our comfort zones.
And live a more authentic life.
A more fulfilling life.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
On this deep dive into Roar Courage.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Go out there and be brave.
Until next time, be bold, be brave,
Keep roaring.
and keep roaring.